go to the next one. Okay, thank you. So yeah, just to introduce myself. Everyone can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Dr. Perla Del Pino. I'm a family physician with Memorial Primary Care. I have been a family physician now for actually a little bit over 20 years, believe it or not, and time flies. So I'll talk a little bit about my journey. Thank you again for inviting me here today. It definitely has been a great journey, and I love to share it with groups like this. I was in a group like this, and as I'll talk about in this presentation today. My title of my presentation is called Rooted, Resilient, and Rising. The reason I named it this, I do love trees and plants, so I think it resonates a lot with me and the journey that I've taken. So if anyone has questions, I'll have questions at the end, or you can ask me questions throughout. So you can go to the next slide. So I always put at the beginning, since it is on trees and being rooted, is a seed. As you all know, all seeds are completely different everywhere on earth. This is an oak tree seed, and it's always unique. So just like each and every one of you, whether you're in high school or college, and your journey. Next slide. So first, I just want to talk about my influences. So, beginning stages for all of us, as I said, we start as seeds. We have, endless possibilities, just like that seed that we saw. And so that's how, I'll start my journey. I am from Miami, Florida, originally Carroll City. If any of you are from Miami, you know where that is. I grew up with a family who came originally from Cuba. They immigrated here in the 70s or 60s. And I went to elementary school, middle school, high school, all in Miami. I grew up in a very close-knit community with the grandparents around. If anyone here is, of Cuban or Hispanic nationality, that that's very, our families are very close-knit. But I mentioned that just to say that that is a part of who you are. So always remember your roots, your family, where you came from, because that is going to be a part of where you go later. So I always like to mention that in these talks to students, whether high school, college, or beyond, is never forget your roots and early influences. So always think about who were your motivators early on, from your family members or friends, and what motivated you within your neighborhood, what has molded you. Next slide. So after my, growing up and taking roots in Carroll City, we talk about, since we're talking about trees, we take roots. So how do you take root? Roots grow where they're planted. So I have a saying, stand up, because roots, we want a tree to stand up, and we want you to stand up. We want to take you to root where you are planted. And so by stand up, success takes ambition, new ideas, discipline, unity, and a plan. So what do you need to, at least what you mentioned in your introduction today, Sophia, and also in your email, you said that many of the students here, whether high school or college, are planning on careers maybe in medicine. Is that correct?
Yep. We have all types. So we help students who might want to do MD, DO, nurses, PAs. We have a little bit of everything.
Okay. So yeah, in order to stand up, to take root, I have some advice before I go into the more details. And so for the S, success, I also have study. And all of you are here because you are, working on your studies. You are studying either in college or high school. So you want to make sure you establish good study habits. Read all that you can, whether it's, the study on your major or something else. You always want to continue to learn new things. Time management for T. So success takes, I always put the T also for time management. You want to start gaining your time management skills even now because you're going to need them even more once you become, whether you become a nurse, a doctor, a PA, you're going to need those time management skills. So start working on them now. A is for ambition or drive. So always make sure you keep going. The N is for new ideas. So new ideas, you always want to be open to change and learning new things. So like I mentioned, even if you're not always reading about medicine or science, but you want to learn about everything going on in the world. Because, for example, if you are a physician, if you are a nurse, you're going to want to be able to relate to your patients about life in general. So remember to make yourself well-rounded and be open to new ideas. Discipline is very important as you take root within yourself and your studies. You want to make sure sometimes you're going to be distracted by different things. There's going to be things that try to get in the way. I remember when I was in college, I went to University of Miami for undergrad. I'll talk about that in a minute. But there was all sorts of distractions. There was always like famous people coming to concerts on campus or different things going on. And I had to make myself go, we called it the stacks in the library. This was like the very highest level of the library. There was hardly no windows. And that's where I know I had to go study because or else I'd be distracted. So only you will know yourself and where I knew I couldn't just study in the student area looking around and all the stuff going on. So you have to know yourself and know what you have to do to discipline yourself because even at that time, I knew what I wanted to do. So, again, discipline yourself and be disciplined with yourself. Unity. So I put unity there because we never need to do things alone. You always need to remember that there are others who want to help you. So always, make sure that you reach out. And P is always have a plan. So whatever you do, whatever you take, you take hold of that you want to do, whether it is you're in high school now and you want to go in and start planning to become a nurse or a doctor, make sure that you have a plan, that you talk to the right people and set your goals. So the next slide, please. So I have this tree here. This is showing the roots and the tree because now we've talked about, why it's important to stand up, what kind of attributes we need. But now we need to, for all of you and all of us as we continue on our lives and in our career, we need to know our why. Why are you interested in becoming a doctor? Why are you interested in becoming a nurse? Make sure it never is because your mom or your dad said so, or your uncle is a doctor, so they want you to become a doctor, or because you got A's in science and they said this is good for you. No, make sure you know your own reason and you want to do it because of your personal passion and conviction for whatever it is that you want to become a doctor. Personally, my reason, my why, I always loved working with people. I grew up around my grandparents. I went with them to the doctors when I was younger and they were a little bit younger. And I remember helping them along the way, helping them with their wounds, helping take care of them when they got home, and just being extra interested in just the human aspect of it. And then when I went into school, I started being a lot more interested in the sciences, but also in volunteering with others in general at food kitchens, soup kitchens, and working with the homeless and working in different populations with people. So make sure that you love people, that you love human interaction, because working in the healthcare field, you are going to be exposed to all types of people. It's not always going to be happy and rosy. Some days it's going to be a little hard. And you want to know that even on your toughest, hardest days, you still remember your why and you want to be there because of that reason. Because you don't want it to be on your toughest day that you quit because it's so tough. You want to have your why always as your basis. So I always tell everyone, when you're considering a field with people with medicine, to be rooted in your why. Next slide. So now we get to resilience. So again, it's called rooted, resilient, and rising. So we first talked about rooted. So you want to be rooted in when you're thinking about careers in medicine or with healthcare. You want to make sure that you have your roots. You think about your why. You think about you use your background, why you're there. And all of that, you don't just become resilient, you don't just are born resilient, but all of your experience that you guys will have and are currently having are making you resilient already. You don't even know it. All of you here and all of you who are mentors and you will mentor other students, they're resilient. Everyone here is becoming resilient based on the experiences that you have. I'm going to be talking about some of my experiences that made me resilient, but you all are going to have some as well. So just remember your unique experiences, and that's what's going to help you get to your final goal in healthcare. So, and resilient, what is it? It's fine that you change slides. It's, as we know, it's you keep going no matter what. You have like this tough shell that you continue to go. So there's a saying, and it's by Dolly Parton, but other people have said it in different ways. Storms make trees take deeper roots. And I don't know if you guys know this, from if anyone here is has a weird interest in trees like I do, but when storms happen and there's a tree up in the air, blowing, and there's a storm, if it's a strong tree, the roots actually are forming more and more and holding on tight. It's almost like arms. They're holding on tighter down below as the storm is going. So they actually make the tree, the rough times up top, make the tree come down further. And the reason I wanted to mention that is as you go through tough times, which you guys are going to go through tough times, tough classes, there's going to be other tough things just in general in life, things are going to happen. Just remember to, one second, I'm sorry, I'm doing a presentation, I'll be right there. Yeah, there's going to be certain things that will happen that will cause you to try to uproot, but just remember to go deeper and remember, as I mentioned in the first few slides, where you came from. Remember your family, your friends, your support groups, your why. So this is what you all have to kind of establish before you're doing everything that you're doing with school, and just remember this, remember your roots, and to kind of buckle down on that. So next slide. And also leaning on your reinforcement. So if you have support groups at school, like counselors and things like that, remember them as well, because they can help you during these tough times. So, if you can go back to that slide one time for me, please.
Oh, where did it go?
No, the other.
Here.
Sorry. So I did want to mention here, so when I was in college, my sophomore year, my mom was diagnosed with colon cancer. And at that time, I was in the exam room with her when she was diagnosed. And the doctor told her that she would actually have just 6 months to live. And I heard those words. I was a sophomore in college. I was already pre-med. And that was very, very difficult for me. And I remember that I could have quit school. I could have just said, forget it. I'm going to just be with my mom. And I had already lost my dad when I was in high school. My dad died of, he had developed a rare form of throat cancer that actually went to his brain, and he passed away when I was only 15. So I already had just one parent at this time. I had lost him. And so when I was told that in high school, of course, I was devastated. I mean, in college, I was devastated. But again, I use this slide to say I leaned into, my support group. My mom, of course, wanted me to continue with school, regardless of what the doctors said. And I did. I continued with school and supported her as she supported me, leaned into other family members and other support groups. And, thank God today she is still alive. She's 81, so she made it because this was a long time ago. But I just wanted to mention that story that, you're going to go through difficult times, in high school, college, while you're in school, and you got to kind of lean into your support groups during that time. Okay, so next slide. So now we have a little kind of intermission break. This has nothing to do with trees, but just pretend we're driving through a forest and we're making a pit stop. So I just want to mention during kind of like a time that we're talking about becoming resilient is that tough times will happen when you're in college. And I'm going to just give you like a personal story of mine. Again, when I was at pre-med, I had an episode where I was going in for a microbiology test, and sorry, my computer. I was going in for a microbiology test. I was running late. I had a very old car. Usually I didn't have a car at all, but at this particular time, my family was able to get me a very cheap car, 1980 something Toyota. And as I was turning the corner, the door just fell off. Like my door that when I was driving fell off the car. And I know that sounds crazy, but then I went outside, I picked it up, and I put it in the back. It was a hatchback, and I went back home. And thankfully, my brother was home. He tied the door back on somehow on the car, and then I made it to school and took the test. So why do I say that story? Because sometimes just out of the crazy, wild things are going to happen to you, and you kind of just have to think outside the box. Thankfully, that door was able to be jimmy rigged and tied back on, and I made it to school and took the test. But sometimes you will have things that come out of left field and try to take you away from your goal. But, just kind of shifting, doing what you can with what you have, and then keep going. So just to let you know, I came from humble beginnings. My car was the most rustiest, oldest car in the world, and I knew I had to get to school somehow. If I wouldn't have been able to get that door back on, I would have just took the bus, took whatever I had to go. But just letting you know, if you're really motivated to reach your goals, you just do what you got to do. So that's the intermission break. So next slide. So a little bit after my mom became ill, I began to listen to people, unfortunately, and I actually allowed myself to bend a little bit to hearing different thoughts. And this, I wanted to mention this slide because sometimes people will try to kind of get you out of what you're trying to do. And, as a female, people started telling me, oh, you're not going to be able to become a doctor and have time to have children or have a family or, do this or do that. You should change your major. So for a very short time, I did change my major to education, which I love education. And actually, I don't know if any of you guys know this, but being a doctor, the word doctor means teacher. So I changed it to education because I was listening to the negativity, coming to me. And I liked it, but I felt right away that it wasn't my passion. So what did I do is after maybe a few months being in that major, I said, I'm going to do something. And I thought outside the box. And at that time, you guys don't have this anymore, but we had the big yellow pages that was like how we found everybody's number, how you found everything. And now everything's on Google. But I was in school right before the blow up of the internet. So, I'm kind of aging myself there. But I went in the phone book and I said, I'm going to find female physicians and I'm going to ask them about everything that people told me you can't do. And I did. I called a bunch. I just wrote down the numbers, I looked up their names, and I went and I visited them. And guess what? Each and every one told me either they were married, they had children, they had a normal life. Who told me that? And so the reason I say that is when people start telling you negative things about your goal that you have in your life and that you can't accomplish certain things, first of all, are they that thing that you're trying to become? You, if they're not a physician, they're not a nurse, they're not a PA, they're not whatever it is you're trying to become, it's fine. Take their advice, but then you call a person in that position and you ask them the questions that you have. And that's what I did, okay? Because I was taking advice from people who never went to medical school, who never were pre-med, who never were physicians, who never were moms, who never were married, who never anything. They were telling me, you're not going to be able to do X, Y, Z, anything. It was all false. And it almost made me deter me from my dream because I was listening to them. So again, you use that and my experience, where I could have done that and stand strong. Maybe you might bend a little, but then, like I said, I came to my senses and I said, I need to find out for real what is going on. So after I did that, I switched my major back. And next slide. And I started making connections. So back to the tree scenario, if you guys don't know this, trees, as they grow up, again, they have roots below. Did you know that the roots connect and there's a strong connection underground and roots of the trees? So as the trees go up, when there's a tree that is sick or that needs help, it will actually, another tree that is super healthy will reach its roots out to the tree that is sick. And even if the tree is far away from the tree that is healthy, signals are actually sent from the leaves to other trees that then go down to the roots. It's amazing. I know I probably sound nerdy talking about this, but it really is amazing and it relates to humans, how trees connect and how it can relate to us. So when you're in trouble, just like I kind of went through my question stage, like, wait, everybody's telling me I'm not going to be able to do X, Y, Z as a physician. What should I do? I reached out, and through those connections, other people started reaching out to me. And in the end, I was back on track. So make sure that when you're going through any difficult situations, that you guys reach out. You reach out to others and you kind of put out that SOS signal so that you can receive the assistance that you need. So yeah, we can go to the next slide. I'm just making sure I'm not missing anything in my notes. All right, so now that I kind of let you guys know a little bit of my journey from the beginning, I'm going to go into some of the basics and then go a little bit more into my journey. So as I said, I'm from Miami, Florida, Carroll City. I went to elementary, middle, and high school here. I went to high school at American Senior High in Hialeah, Florida, right there near PSN, if anybody's from that area. Of course, in high school, and if you are in high school here or you mentor high school students, the one thing that I mention is stay involved. Stay involved in everything. Even if you think you want to be a doctor, don't just do science stuff. Do everything. Become involved. I was in music. I was in drama. I was in dance. I volunteered. You don't want to be a single in a box kind of person. You want to be very well-rounded. You want to do what interests you. That's what makes you a well-rounded individual as you grow. So please never tell your high schoolers or you yourself, don't just say, I'm just going to be in biology club. I'm just going to be in chemistry club. I mean, unless that's your only interest, but you want to expand your horizons. You want to be in the band. You want to be in other things. So in high school, I did try to, do well and also be involved. And then I was able to, achieve getting into the University of Miami. So that's where I did my undergraduate. My major in undergraduate was microbiology. So if you want to become a doctor, you have to have a pre-medical focus. So pre-med is actually not a major, it's just a focus area. you can actually major in dance and be pre-med, because pre-med is just a group of classes that you have to complete to get into medical school. So my major was microbiology because I liked microbiology, but there were some people who majored in history or majored in English, and they were still pre-med. So college, of course, is 4 years for pre-med. It can be less if you've already done, some people have done the 2 years in high school, or maybe more, depending on your life journey. Another thing I always like to mention is never compare yourself to anybody else. Your journey is your journey. I always had to work. My mom, again, she became a widow when early on. I was only 15 when my dad passed away. So I worked. I worked from high school. I worked all of college. And so I was a little different than maybe other students who didn't have to work. So if it takes you a little longer, just keep your goal as your goal, even if you have to work or you have to do other things. So then college, it will take you 4 years or more, depending. And during the college years, that's when you start to figure out what you want to do after college. If you want to go on to become a doctor, that will take medical school. If you want to do PA school or another type of post-professional school, this is where you start thinking about it in your junior year. So during my junior year, I knew for a fact I wanted to become a doctor. And so that's when you start taking your MCAT. I'm going to talk about that in another slide. So right now, after you take your MCAT, well, in this slide, I'll just talk about the years, what it took me to get through the journey. So college, medical school is 4 years, residency is 3 years, and it's a lifelong experience of learning. So we can go to the next slide. So first in college, so this is actually me in a club similar to this one. I don't know if you guys have the Minority Association of Pre-Health Students at FIU. It's called MAPS. I'm in the front with the long dress on, but this was a long time ago, like 1995 or 96. I went to University of Miami. Like I said, I was majored in microbiology with a minor in music and chemistry. I played the piano, so I always kept that up in college as well. So first things first, high school and college, keep those grades up. There's no sugarcoating that whatsoever. You got to keep the grades up. If you know you're in a class that's super difficult, that you're not doing well in, drop it before the drop date, because you don't want anything to mess up your GPA. That part, there's no sugarcoating. We all know that once your GPA drops, it's really, really, really hard to bring it back up. So just stay on top of that, because if you do want to go to medical school or professional school, they do look at that GPA. Number 2, volunteer. Volunteer as much as you can. So they see that you have other interests. They see that you're not just this like straight line person that has no kind of personality. Even if you like animals, it doesn't have to be volunteer with people. It can be volunteer with the environment, but just that you have other interests. Join clubs within the school or in the community. Show leadership skills. So whether it's in a club or your community, or even you have a job, that's a leadership skill. So make sure that you show your leadership skills. And lastly, enjoy it, because time does fly. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I've been a physician now for 20 years. I've been out of college for over 30 years, which is crazy. You will one day be in my shoes saying the same thing, and enjoy the ride, because it does go by fast. So next slide. So what is the path to medical school? So there's a traditional path and there's a non-traditional path. So traditional is you go to high school, college 4 years, medical school 4 years. Non-traditional path is anything is anything. I put a path here because there's many paths to get through the forest to get to medical school, many paths. I was in school with people who were 50 years old. I was 23 years old, 24 years old. And there was people sitting next to me that were 50. They decided to change their mind and career later stage. So number one, it's never too late, and there is no like cookie cutter path. But one thing you do have to do is, as I mentioned before, you you do have to take your pre-medical classes. So no matter what age or stage you're at, whether you're going straight from high school and now you're in college taking your pre-med, or you already had a whole career and now you want to go back, make sure you know all the pre-med requirements to get into medical school. Once you complete that, then as I said, you'll take your MCAT. MCAT is a medical college admission test, and they have certain criteria and grades that are scores that are required to get into school. So you'll take that. You can take that many times. Some people take it 3 times. Some people take it 1 time. But you'll take your MCAT, and then you start the application process. The good thing about the medical school application, it's done through it's like a confined application online called the AMCAS, the American Medical College Admission. I forget what the last S stands for, but basically it's a site that does all your applications. So for example, if you want to apply to 25 medical schools, you do it all through AMCAS. If you want to apply to 3 medical schools, you do it all through there. It's all through one condensed program. You write one essay, you put all your transcripts on there. It's kind of like in high school, how when you apply to college, but it's the same thing now for medical school. And then you wait. You wait to hear back from the school if they accepted you. What do they look at? All the things I talked about before. They look at your grade, yes, but the most thing they're going to look at is, are you a well-rounded person? How is your essay? Did you volunteer? Everybody can have great grades. You know, they can have like 100,000 kids with a 4.0 that you just stayed in the library all 4 years in college or all 4 years in high school and college. But what did you do with your extra time? You know, did you volunteer? Did you work? Express your story in your personal statement. So keep being you, keep being unique. Next slide. So I waited, and I was very, very thankful. I got into my first choice of medical school. I always have wanted to be a DO. I love, love, love being a DO. Why did I choose DO? And I picked Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. It is the largest osteopathic school in the country, and it's in Philadelphia, which I love Philadelphia. But they have many diverse programs. It's a diverse school. I chose to be a DO because as a DO, we have a different philosophy of looking at patients. We practice medical just as an MD. However, we also learn the musculoskeletal treatment of patients. So we look at the holistic view of the patient. So right away when a patient comes into me, I don't right away think treating them with a medication, but I also look at, let me see what I can help you with your neck pain. In addition to, maybe you might need a muscle relaxer, or you might need an injection, but we look at a holistic view. It's a whole mindset of how we view our patients, and that made me choose being a DO. And I have loved it. I love to this day being a DO, and I'm so happy that someone talked to me about it when I was in high school. You know, of course, growing up, I had only heard of MDs, and then I saw more and more different doctors saying DO at the end of their name, and when I found out about it, that's what I knew I wanted to become. Also, I have family members who are chiropractors, and I love the musculoskeletal aspect. However, I wanted to add the medical aspect because I believe in, you know, traditional medicine as well, and I felt that the DO combined both perfectly. So it's the same, both allopathic, and I'll talk about both here. And I did get into allopathic school as well. By the way, I got into Temple University, I got into University of Cincinnati, so I got into MD and DO schools. But I wanted to be a DO, that was my first choice. And many patients to this day choose to come to me because I'm a DO. Patients know the difference, they know the philosophy difference, but I'm not, you know, gonna steer anyone in any one direction, but I am a DO proponent because I'm a DO. So it's 4 years, the total school, just like MD school. Everything is exactly the same, except what I'm going to talk about. First 2 years, you do your schooling. You're in the classroom doing schoolwork. The last 2 years are your clinical rotations. You basically spend time in cardiology, neurology, pediatrics. You pretty much spend in all the rotations. These are the 2 years where you kind of figure out what specialty you want to do. Um, the, the one difference between DO and MD, again, is that we learn also musculoskeletal techniques on how to treat the patient for different things. So again, if a patient comes in with ear pain, yes, we look at the ear, you're going to get an antibiotic, but we also teach the parents, okay, if you do, we have certain techniques that we teach the parents on how to help the medication go in better into the ear. We teach them how to help their child at night. When your child is crying, and I don't know if anyone here has any children, how to do certain massages on the ear. On the belly, when there's constipation, we learn certain techniques to help with constipation. We learn certain techniques to help with back pain. So we don't right away give a patient, here, take this medication and go. No, we teach you how to best approach it. So patients everybody doesn't want medication right away. They want a more holistic approach. So this is what we learn in DO school, in addition to medication. So it's not, to me, it's the best of both worlds. I feel like everybody should be a DO. Also, as a DO, you can be any specialty you want. So that used to be a myth, like, oh, DOs can't go into any specialty. Yes, you can. So at the end of medical school, just like at the end of college, you start applying to medical school. Now at the end of medical school, the last year, you start applying to residencies. What is it that you want to specialize in? So I knew I wanted to specialize in family medicine, so I applied to those residency programs. Other people might have wanted to become a surgeon, so they applied to those programs. So always stay curious when you're in medical school. Your hobbies, volunteer, continue to lead, and remember to keep yourself healthy while you're in school and continue to be you. Let your you shine through. So again, year 4, you apply to residency, and you can go to the next slide. I'll talk about that. So my residency, this was a little intermission slide. Before I got to residency, I was married at the time, and I got married in my 3rd year of medical school, and 2nd year of medical school, I'm sorry. And I had my first pregnancy during my 4th year of medical school. And unfortunately, that pregnancy was very, very high risk. They actually told me that my baby was going to die. I know we don't have very long for this presentation, but it was a very long story. Everything was abnormal with the pregnancy, everything you could think of. I had to go on bed rest for 2 years. I was devastated. The doctor told me either I would have to end my pregnancy, like terminate it, or I would have to go on bed rest and wait until the baby died. Those were the 2 options that I was given. So I decided to go on bed rest and wait till the baby died. And that was very hard for me. The baby did not die, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But at this time, I didn't know if the baby was going to make it or not. And I had to just kind of make it where, I had to figure things out. So that's why I put there, life, be lifing. Life happened, and here I was on the way about to graduate. And then I didn't graduate because I had to wait to see what happened. So the next slide. And this is the baby. My baby is my son. He's now 23 years old. And during 4th year of medical school, I had him. And he was in the NICU. That's him in the NICU. He was only 2 pounds. I had him, again, it was an emergency C-section. I don't have enough time right now to tell you the whole story, but as you can tell, it was a very emotional moment, because even to the point when they rolled me into the room, the operating room, the doctor told me, he said, this baby is probably going to die, just be ready for it. And I was like, I'm ready, And when he was born, which that was the day he was born right there, he did like a little small cry, like a mouse, like, like so high pitched. And I don't know again if any of you here is a mom, but when I heard that, I got this piece that I knew he was going to make it. So now, remember in the beginning of the story, I said, find your why. This is added to my why. This was added to my why. So next slide. So I graduated school. I went after I had him. I did take another year off to take care of him. He was in and out of the hospital. Thankfully, today he's alive. Like I said, he's 23. He actually goes to FIU, and he's pre-occupational therapy. I think I asked him to join, but I don't think he was able to. He had a test today. But anyways, he made it, and that's my miracle story with that. And all of you will have your own stories, and you'll have more and more added to it. But now I graduated. And again, he was part of my why, and that I could make it. It was resilient. I was able to be resilient. Now I went into residency. I chose family medicine. Why did I choose family medicine? Because I loved all of my rotations. I loved pediatrics. I loved adolescent age. I loved surgery. I loved eye care. I loved stomach. I loved every body part. Family medicine encompasses the entire body from zero, we call it from cradle to the grave. So I started looking for programs. At the time, I was living in Pennsylvania, and I loved Pennsylvania, so I chose a residency there. Family medicine is 3 years. I went to the family medicine residency program, the Reading Hospital and Medical Center. So during residency, this is the time. When you graduate medical school, you become a doctor. You have your degree. It says, Dr. Sophia Calderon, MD or DO, whatever school you went to. But you cannot go out and practice. You can't open up a practice at all. You have to go to residency. So during residency, that's when you learn how to practice medicine. Okay, so everybody has to go to residency, depending on what specialty you choose. So as a family medicine resident, you normally start in the summertime. You are on call quite a bit as a resident. You're on call at least once or twice a month. And this is where, many of you might have seen the TV shows. You're on call for overnight. So you admit patients. Residency, you do pretty much anything and everything. You're in charge of the hospital. But you learn so much. It's a great time for training. And once you're done with residency, you are ready to go out and practice. So next slide. So now during my 3rd year of residency, I had my next little miracle, and this is my daughter. She just graduated high school, so I put a new picture of her. There's also a story behind her where they told me she was going to have all these abnormalities. I had already had my son, so I knew. I was like, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to, just push through and have her. I feel like a lot of things happen to people in medicine, and we go through the worst medical things. Maybe it's like we're just getting more prepared to be in medicine, but thank God she also was born healthy. She did not have any of the medical issues that my son did, and I didn't have to take time off for her. And I actually worked all the way pregnant with her to like the day before she was born. So she's my little rough and tough little girl. So next slide. So now, after 3rd year of residency, you complete residency. Now what? Now you are ready to get a job, finally. So you have 4 years of college, 4 years of medical school, 3 years of residency if you do primary care. Some specialties are a little bit longer. For example, certain surgical residencies are 4 years. Pediatrics is also 3 years. Some specialties you do internal medicine first, which is 3 years, and then you have a fellowship. For example, you might do internal medicine, but then maybe you want to be a gastrointestinal doctor. That's another 1 year fellowship. So that will be 4 years total. So I didn't want to do a fellowship. I wanted to go out and practice medicine and be a family doctor. So after residency, I went and started looking for jobs. Now, before I did that, I did take my boards. So you do have to take your boards, and you have to take boards all throughout, and I still have to take boards. Whenever you look for a doctor, say you're looking online right now for a doctor and says board eligible or board certified, when you're board certified, like mine says board certified, that means I took all my boards, 1, 2, and 3, and then every 7 to 10 years, you have to take more boards. So always keep up with your boards, because most large hospital systems and jobs, they want you to keep up with your education. So take your boards, continue to study. It also enables you for better job opportunities. So next slide. So what's a day in my life? I know that you asked that, Sophia. So a day in my life can be anything and everything. And that's one of the things somebody, even that everybody and anyone can walk in your door, from, the president of whatever to, we have anyone and everyone. And when you're a family doctor, we can see small, kids and babies and adults. Where I am now, we see 18 and up, so I don't see kids, but I used to in previous jobs. So a day in my life, I started at 8 a.m. I come in, my first patient may be an 85-year-old lady coming in to talk about her diabetes. Then my next patient is at 8:20. She may come in because she's having issues with her cycle and she wants to go on birth control. My next patient at 8:40 may be a 19-year-old that needs their physical to go to FIU. My next patient at 9 a.m. may be a patient coming in with belly pain and doesn't know why they're having belly pain. So again, the day is a big mixture of things throughout the entire day, and that's why I love being a doctor as well, because our day stays very, very, it's different, and every day is different. There is no day that's the same. Your day is always almost like a TV show where you don't know what's going to happen. And you yourself, whether you're a nurse, a doctor, a PA, you are part of the main story of the TV show. You're figuring things out. Just think of yourself as a private investigator. You're helping to figure things out and what's happening with that patient. Also, as a primary care physician, we're a big part of preventing diseases in our patients. So, for example, if I'm seeing a healthy person, like most of you, you're coming in, we're doing blood work, we're ordering stuff. We want to keep you healthy. We want to make sure you keep your cholesterol healthy. So we're teaching you lifelong skills on how to stay healthy. All right, next slide. So I'm almost done, I promise. So make sure that my advice is definitely remember that even though now it seems like you guys are studying and it seems like never ending studying and you feel like a big load is on your chest every day, what you're doing now is shaping you into becoming a future doctor, a future nurse, a future PA, whatever it is that your goal is in healthcare. What you're doing now is preparing you for that. As you go in healthcare and you become what you want to become, you reach your goals, you are going to have a precious life in your hands every single day, every 20 minutes. When I go into the exam room, I'm a person of faith. I pray that I make the right decisions with that person because they're trusting you. And it's a very great feeling to have that sense of trust. But I cannot think that someone's going to trust me if I do not put in the work. Putting in the work starts with you guys now. Make sure you're studying, make sure you're disciplined, make sure you're taking care of yourself. Because how can I tell someone to take care of themselves if I'm not studying what they have, if I'm not taking care of myself, I'm not eating right, I'm not exercising. So make sure you guys are doing that now so that you can be that example to your patients later in the future. And my true mantra is find a job you enjoy doing so that you will never have to work a day in your life. And I don't feel like I'm coming to work. I feel like I'm truly just coming in and having a good time every day. And it is hard days sometimes, but I love it. I think I just have a few more slides. Should be almost done. I know we're close to time.
No worries.
So lastly, we'll talk about just rising and some of the attributes that you guys will have. So next slide. So some of the attributes that are going to help you as a doctor or in healthcare is make sure you put in the hard work. As I said, you've got to, if you want hard, you got to put in hard. Sacrifice, there will be some times you may have to sacrifice. As I said, when I was in college, I missed maybe some of the concerts or some of the big, parties going on because I knew I had a test the next day, and my friends that were a different major didn't. So just kind of know and put that in your head now that you may have to make some sacrifices. Compassion. You cannot have a job in the medical field if you don't have that compassionate feeling towards others. Commitment. You have to have a sense of commitment to continue on your goal because as I told you, my journey was a little longer even because I had my health issues with my pregnancy. So, but you have to stay committed to your goal because there will be things that try to break in. And are you committed? Do you want to continue? And those things, they're going to happen to everyone, but it's the committed ones that can survive, go over those hurdles. Responsibility. I know the Spider-Man movie is coming out tomorrow, and what do they say with great power comes great responsibility. So some mornings I may not want to come to work, just like all of us. I'm tired. I want to just lay in my bed, but I remember Mrs. Garcia is my 8 a.m. patient. She's there waiting on me, or Mr. Sanchez is my 9 o'clock patient, and he's waiting for me. So what I'm saying is, remember your responsibilities now. People are really leaning in on you. So that's why we do have a responsibility to ourselves. Take care of ourselves, be there for ourselves so that those that we're taking care of we're able to see them. And curiosity. Always remember to ask questions. Stay curious. Never think that you know everything because you don't. And once you think you do, that's trouble because there's always new things to learn, and that will keep you, learning more and more the more that you stay curious. So next slide. So lastly, I always want to mention that there will be many things that try to get in the way and try to kind of take you from your goal. Always keep the big picture in mind, so if your goal is to become a nurse or to become a doctor or to become a PA or whatever it is that your final goal is, there's going to be different things that try to distract you, but keep looking towards that light, that end of the tunnel, and keep the big picture the big picture. So that's why I always put don't get lost. And the reason I said that, I remember when I was in residency, my attending, who is your direct doctor in charge, he told me, Perla, you're getting lost in the forest for the trees. So, just always remember the big picture. So remember, the slide before this just says to reflect, to remember to reflect.
I'm trying to find the slide.
Reflect.
I'm sorry. I don't know what happened.
It's a picture with the purple trees.
That one there on. Okay.
So lastly, just always, even when you reach your top, you reach your goal, make sure that when you look at your reflection, when you look at yourself in the mirror, you're looking at you, you're looking at who you wanted to be, and you're looking at a person that you love. So always, I put that there. You want your reflection to be the best reflection of you. So next slide. And remember that everything that you guys are doing now, and I love that some of you guys are currently mentors and you're mentoring high school students. And if you're a high school student, you can mentor other high school students or junior high school students, because anything that you build today, just like this quote says, someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted the tree long ago. So never think that when you reach wherever you reach, that's it. Now remember where you came, remember those who come after you, and always continue to build upon that. I think I have one more slide. So stay curious and always ask questions. So no matter what, make sure that you continue to learn. One more slide. So stay rooted, resilient, curious, and keep rising. This is the way that you guys will reach your goals, and no matter what kind of curveballs life throws at you, you continue your roots in the ground and you'll continue to rise. So thank you so much for having me here today. I'm open for any questions.
Thank you so much. That was a great presentation. Um, you said a lot of things that were very touching, at least to me personally. So yeah, we're open to questions. I don't know if anyone has any questions that they want to say, if you want to raise your hand. But until our mentors ask, I wanted to ask because a lot of the guest speakers that we have been MD, and I know that you don't want to steer anyone to a certain direction and everything. I understand. But if you want
Well, I'll
to
see you for CEO. I'll steer you.
okay, because if you want to give us your perspective as to why you did DO or what are some things that you think are you can do with DO, you can't do with MD, or maybe vice versa. Because one of the big questions, at least I get a lot from my mentees, is what is the difference between a DO and an MD? So if you would like to dive into that, as
So,
you yourself are a DO, that would
yeah.
be very nice.
Yeah. So first and foremost, in terms of training and education and your ability to do whatever it is you want with your degree as a doctor, there is no difference. So
Mm-hmm.
if you go to DO school or if you go to MD school and you want to become the chief officer of the National Institute of Health, you can do it, whether you're a DO or MD. If you want to become the CEO of a hospital, you can do it, whether you're DO or MD. You want to become a surgeon, you can do it, DO or MD. So education wise and how you are as a physician, no difference. The difference comes in training we receive, and I can say this with all truth and honesty, as a DO, we receive a little additional training or a lot additional training in the musculoskeletal treatment of people. So just as I explained during the presentation,
Mm-hmm.
when we're learning about pediatrics, we learn the same exact thing that the MDs learn about pediatrics, but then we have a musculoskeletal class along with pediatrics where we also learn how to treat a patient for, okay, sorry, someone's telling me, how to treat a patient with certain conditions, musculoskeletal. When we learn about orthopedics, and we learn about knee pain and arthritis. We learn about everything the same as MDs do on how to treat the knee. We learn about surgeries. We learn about everything. But then in addition to that, we have extra classes on how to examine the knee, how to do some procedures on the knee to help with the treatment of the knee. So in reality, we do a little bit more training and a little bit more classes. And I remember when I was in Philadelphia in medical school, I had some of my colleagues who went to Temple. That's why I got accepted to Temple as well. And they would be done with classes, and we would have a little bit more classes because we were learning other techniques. But it was fun, and to tell you the truth, right now, the patients see the difference,
Yeah.
and we we see medicine with different eyes. And I'm not going to tell you all DOs are the same. Some DOs may not be that interested in these techniques, but most of us are. That's why we chose DO school. There used to be a long ago myth that it was easier to get in DO school than MD school. That's not true at all. I got into both exactly the same, and I chose DO school because I wanted to go to DO school. I didn't get into a DO school only, and I didn't just get into one school, you know. So, and that's the case with most people that I know. So maybe that might have been a long, long time ago, but that is a myth now that I always talk about. Yeah. So the difference is we do a lot more for our patients. We also have a more holistic view. We palpate the patient. You know, we always touch our patient to examine them. Sometimes you might hear people going to the doctor and they tell you the doctor didn't even touch them, that the doctor just looked at them from across the room. As DOs, we learn we touch all of our patients.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I
Mm-hmm.
guess that makes sense. Yeah, maybe there are some theories and superstitions out there about the difference of one another, but it's important to look at the actual facts of it all.
Like
But
I said, you always want to don't ever take somebody's
yeah,
word who said, "Oh, I heard." No, do like remember my story. I went and I called ladies who were doctors who had kids to ask them, can you do
Yeah,
this? How can you do? So go and talk to a DO. Go spend some time with someone. Don't
exactly.
ever just assume, even our own college counselors, sometimes they don't know and they tell you the wrong thing. Because they might have heard. So you want to get the right thing from the horse's mouth, like they say.
Of course, do your own research on everything. Um, does anyone have any other questions? Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm also like leaning towards doing DO more than MD, but I still am a little conflicted. Like I do want to reach out to people and talk to doctors, but like I don't know exactly what approach to take because whenever I reach out to doctors, I don't seem to get a response. So I don't know if there's like anything that I'm specifically doing wrong or something that you suggest I should do. Like,
So the best thing is to first, yeah, sometimes if you reach out to like a doctor's office, like it's, we are super busy and sometimes we may not even get a message or we might not see the email or a lot of times we don't even get the message. So what I would recommend is you can reach out to programs that have education programs already. So, like, say, hospitals that have, like Memorial, we have a educational division, like a residency program. So you can reach out to them and see if you can spend time with one of the doctors. Now you guys have my information, so I can see if you can spend time with one of the doctors. Um, Even if you could spend an hour or two, we have several DOs with our division that can answer many of your questions. The other thing is going in person, and I know not everybody has time for that, but going in person to the office and just bringing information, maybe like a little small letter about yourself and say you're interested in becoming a DO and you wanted to see if you could spend time with that doctor, even if it's just an hour, just talking to them about what they do. It really does make a big difference. Yeah, but try to reach out to the educational centers first and see, because they usually will have more availability for students.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I had a question. So I notice a lot that whether you're in high school or pre-med or even in med school, kids, what they face a lot is burnout, and that can harm a lot of like mental health, dealing with medical school, dealing with all the studies you need to do when you start doing shadowing or rotations or residency. So if you had any tips or tricks, maybe things that you did to help you maybe balance that school and life or whatever
Hmm.
advice you have regarding that.
Yeah. Yeah, so that is very important and a good question. And yeah, that's why I always mention keep doing the things that interest you. So it's not just about like school, study, work, test. Like do other, if you like bike riding, if you like, so I did like bike riding, I liked rollerblading, I liked exercising, so that was my outlet. I liked going out with friends. Continue to go out. You can't go out all the time every single day, but make sure you set those outings. Family time, so if you go to school far away from family, which I did, I was in school in Philadelphia, make sure you go back and visit family wherever city you're from every few months, or call family. Keep that connection to like the real you. And then most importantly for mental health, if you feel like it is getting where you feel overwhelmed, make sure you have a counselor. Even before I recommend everyone to have a counselor, even when things are going great, because you have someone that you can kind of lean on and depend on. And then speak to your school. Many students, even in my class, I remember some students were overwhelmed, they had a lot going on, and they had to take time off for different reasons. Your school will work with you, even your colleges now, if you're feeling overwhelmed and you need to take like a semester off or you need to slow down, you just have to speak up. Like I mentioned here, speak. If somebody is not helping, speak to someone else. But you have to find kind of like that connection with someone that hears you, because we definitely don't want you to feel that way. And you're going to be in the people field helping people just that like you that might feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So you want to get the help. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
Um,
reaching out and letting someone know.
exactly. Yeah, not keeping everything to yourself and knowing how to focus on school, but then also knowing that you have your own life outside of school.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep your life, keep your interests, like never neglect yourself. There are going to be times when you feel like, everything is coming in at once. And when you feel like that, just put everything down, take a few minutes, reset, and then come back to it. But it's never, it doesn't have to be all, straight school.
I was trying to see if someone left me a message and then it just took off the PowerPoint. So my bad on that. But
Oh, it's okay.
so a question is, do you have any advice on submitting your medical applications, writing the essays, maybe taking the MCAT, things of that process? Any tips that you did during that?
Yeah, so submitting the medical college application, has many parts. So number one, the essay, make sure you make it unique to you, write your story, go even back to childhood like I did. Just think about who you are, why you are. They like to see that you're shining through, that you're just not talking about, oh, I wanted to be a doctor because I liked, anatomy class and I like, like really let your something unique shine through to you. So that's important with the essay. For the application, you want to make sure that you list everything, volunteer experiences, work experiences. As I mentioned, try to keep your grades in as good grade level as much as you can because that really does, that's like, that's just a general requirement though. The
Yeah.
general requirement is the grades. The things that make you unique is all the other things that you do. So if your grades are not there, you're already going to be put on another pile. So that's why I said you got to just, number one is always keeping your grades.
Okay.
And then when you do research medical schools, research everything about it. What city is it? Is this a city you would want to live in? Some of the cities are super cold, or there might not be that many things to do. Like you got to research the city as well because some people end up going to a medical school in a place that they really hate,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're going to be there for 4 years, maybe more, depending on what happens. So make sure that it's in a place you want to go to.
Okay. That's very true. I never really considered that because people sometimes just look at the school and they don't realize there's a lot more than just the
Mm-hmm.
school. Mm-hmm.
Right. The location, like diversity. Some people want to make sure they're, like I speak Spanish, so I wanted to go somewhere where when I did my rotations, I could be of benefit to Spanish speaking patients. So I went to somewhere where it was near like urban and there would be more, Hispanic people and I was like one of the only ones that could speak Spanish in my residency program. And it felt nice to be, like they really need you.
Yeah, like that voice for them. Um,
Right. Yeah.
I don't have any other questions on my end. I don't know if any of you guys have a question that you want to ask before we leave.
Yeah, do you have like any more specific tips on like when it comes to interviewing like for residency and med school? Like what do you think made you stand out amongst like everybody else? Not only like your extracurriculars and grades, but like your actual interview.
So I think just making sure you prepare yourself about their particular school. So learn about their school because they're going to ask you why you want to apply to our school specifically. So kind of read a little bit about what their school has done, some unique things about their school. Like I loved PCOM. It was one of the first, and biggest schools for DOs. A lot of innovative things were started there and positions that I looked up to, but you want to find that out, and for you, why you want to go to certain schools and find out what makes them unique. So they already will find out what makes you unique, and you know that, but now you kind of show them why you're interested in that. So that's one that I think, and then just being professional, making sure you're not like coming across as like full of yourself. You're very humble, because remember, being a doctor, being a physician is a humbling field. You're going to see people at their worst. So you want to come across as that. You want to come across confident, but not like overly confident. Anything else? So good luck. You're in the process